Good morning. Any solicitors that are on the line, any way you can send the recommendations to me, please? The offers, I did not get them in an email. So I can forward them on to the judge. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Katrina.
Okay. I guess it is not responding. Whoever is supposed to send out the offers, can you please email them to me as soon as possible so I can forward them to the judge?
Yes, ma'am. I'll make sure they get to you.
Thank you.
Hey, Katrina,
Yes.
it's courtroom 2. Just to let y'all guys know, we are in the code red right now.
Oh,
So we're gonna probably be a little late. Can you let the judge know?
I definitely will. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we are going to commence with our state court expedited accusation, state court all-purpose calendar at 9 a.m. today. Unfortunately, we're going to have have a small delay. The court, as you can see, courtroom 2 is empty at the present time. The jail is having an event that is causing a slight delay. So as soon as the different locations at the Fulton County Jail are ready, we will commence with the calendar. So we will be taking a brief recess for about 10-15 minutes until the jail's ready, and we will commence with this calendar. If the attorneys wish to communicate with any of the prosecutors, you do see their names and their titles on the Zoom screen. So please take advantage to communicate with them. Mr. Walker, yes, sir. Did you have a question? No? Okay. We'll be in recess until the jail is ready. Ms. Lewis, I'm going to go ahead and print the calendars and the documents as you emailed them to me. So be ready to go forward. Mrs.
Okay.
Thomas, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Fine. How you doing? I don't have the calendar either. Could someone please email me that, please?
If
Pretty
anyone
please.
needs a current calendar, please email Miss Katrina Lewis, and she will be glad to respond as soon as she can. She's got quite a few requests already lined up. Okay, so please,
No problem.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Deputy Francois. How are you?
Good morning, Judge. We're still in the code red. We're still in stage 2.
Okay, just keep us updated and let us know when you want to begin. Okay?
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, check your email. I did send that calendar out. Double check your email.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Walker, Ian Walker?
I'm here, Judge.
All right, I do not have any updates yet from the jail. Perhaps we can use this time constructively to address the competency calendar in a breakout. If
Okay.
you can reach out to Mr. Derek Howard or Miss Lewis.
I will send him a text right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Winters, I know you have to leave at 11 a.m. We're at the mercy of the situation at the jail. So we will try to reach your client's case. I honestly will try.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Walker, let me know if it's a thumbs up for the competency calendar and
Okay.
the breakout.
I'm
then
reaching
we
out to
can-
Mr. Howard right now, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Judge Law? He's not on. All right, I guess we'll pull him out now, Mom.
I'm on.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
everything is stand down now. We're gonna pull the inmates out.
okay. It'll be about 10 minutes. Because
No,
I'm going to go into a breakout with the competency calendar while you're getting everyone together.
okay.
All right. Mr. Howard, Mr. Walker, do you need anyone else in the breakout?
No, Judge.
Okay, Miss Lewis, if you could place the three of us in a breakout room, please.
Along with me. I think April's,
Okay,
I got it.
All right, we're back in the, for the main session for SAP. Is courtroom 2 ready? Courtroom 2?
Yes, we're ready, Judge.
All right. Do we have any other locations at the jail?
Yeah, no?
Okay.
What about, wait a minute, what about, Duffy?
And Francois, we have an add-on we have private counsel who is kind of under the gun for time. DeJuan Moore.
Yeah, we got him, Judge.
All right, let's go ahead and address him. Okay, let's go ahead and bring him forward. Good morning, folks. My name is Judge Lal, and we are going to commence with our state all-purpose calendar for January 12, 2023. This is a list of criminal misdemeanor cases that have already been accused, bonds have been set, and we are going to be addressing the status of the cases. With regard to some of them, we may be having a plea hearing, a bond hearing, or any other matters that the attorneys which hope to raise today. Please remember that if you are a defendant accused of one or more misdemeanor offenses, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of your case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford one of our attorneys from the Public Defender's Office or Conflict Defense List will represent you. Is this Mr. Moore?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, this is Mr. DeJuan Kenneth Moore. Positions number 17 CR 21165Y, in which he's accused of DUI, under the influence of alcohol, less safe, obstruction, and speeding. And he's got a second case, 23 FTA 000005, in which it was for failure to appear for the case we just mentioned. Mr. Abdullah, if we proceed with the plea, is the state going to null pros position 2 on the add-on calendar?
Yes, that's the state's position.
All right. Mr. Moore, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Moore is represented by counsel, Mr. Gabriel Winters. Mr. Abdullah, what are the terms of the state's offer?
At this time, the state is recommending 12 months to serve, 14 days credit for time served, 7 days, balance probated, alcohol drug evaluation and treatment, a risk reduction class, victim impact statement or victim impact panel, and a $300 fine, as well as 40 hours of community service.
Thank you. Mr. Winters, does your client agree to these terms? And do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID of this case?
Yes, Your Honor. We do stipulate to the factual basis.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, Judge, is this for the DUI? What's going to happen to the other 2 charges?
I believe, if I recollect, Mr. Abdullah, you don't want to count on my memory, but I thought it was concurrent for all 3.
It is concurrent for all 3, and we'll know across the FTA.
Okay. Mr. Moore, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No.
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes.
And based on his explanations, have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes.
Is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take a plea today?
No.
And you do understand that if you plead guilty to the 3 charges listed, that you would have to give up your constitutional right to a trial, to not be able to go back to court, confront your accuser, challenge the state's evidence, have the assistance of counsel to present any defenses you may have, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes.
How do you plead to one count of DUI under the influence of alcohol, less safe, obstruction of a law enforcement officer, and speeding?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 14 days, credit for time served 7 days. You'll be placed on probation. You will have to report to the probation office next Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street in downtown Atlanta. Please report before 3 p.m. next Thursday. While you're on probation, you will complete an alcohol and drug evaluation and submit yourself to any treatment if required by the evaluator. You will also attend 1 victim impact panel, complete a risk reduction class, complete 40 hours of voluntary community service at any nonprofit agency, and pay a $300 fine. I will waive your probation fees for the months of January, February, and March. After March, you will continue to report to probation and start paying probation fees. Thank you. Mr. Winters, anything else?
I need a
Nothing further.
clarification. I'm sorry, y'all, but I need a clarification. Y'all say running concurrent. The fine is going to what charge? You guys gotta be really
Okay,
specific
yeah.
and clear.
Miss Lewis, all the terms will apply to the DUI. And unless I'm mistaken, the $300, with the exception of the $300 fine, the $300 fine is for the obstruction. And the speeding is simply 12 months, serve 14 days, credit for 7 days, remainder on probation.
No, Your Honor, the $300 fine is a matter of law for the DUI.
For the DUI. So you're not imposing a fine on the obstruction?
No,
Okay,
that would
All
just
right.
be included in the 12 months for 14 days to serve.
all right. So Ms. Lewis, is that clarify the order?
Yeah, yeah, they have to be clarified for each charge, because I have to write each individual, and if you're telling me $300, I'm applying to all three charges, because you're saying everything. That's why I
Okay.
need clarification of everything, so.
I-
very
I will make
specific.
sure that Mr. Abdullah articulates each sentence for each count.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Abdullah, that's a standing order for Ms. Lewis, and I've learned many years ago, never contradict her.
My apologies. Moving
That's
forward,
all
I'll make sure to do that.
All right, Mr. Winters, did you have any questions?
No, Your Honor, that concludes my business. May I be excused?
Yes, thank you, sir. And
Thank you,
the
sir.
count 2 is null prost. Okay.
Position 12, Mr. Doss.
Thank you. Okay,
Good morning, Your Honor.
good morning, sir. In position 12, we are going to, are you filing a waiver of arraignment for positions 12, 13, and 14?
Your Honor, for positions 12 and 13, we're filing a waiver of arraignment, and I'll submit that paperwork as soon as I get back to the office.
Uh-huh.
For position 14, it's the FTA for a fingerprintable charge, and we're asking for that to be set aside.
All right. Since you're filing the waiver of arraignment, then positions 12 and 13 will be a further notice to the jail jury calendar. With regards to position 14, Mr. Taylor, do you have any objection to issuing a null pros for that case since he's already in custody?
No, Your Honor. Actually, we do, Your Honor. I'm pretty sure it's position 14 that's holding him in custody, correct?
I believe he still hasn't made bond on position 13.
What is the bond on position 13?
And I'm sorry, Judge, as well, position 12, the bond was surrendered, so we'd still have to pay bond on positions 12 and 13.
That's what I thought. So folks, look at it. It's a position. If he was arrested on a failure to appear, any
Okay.
signature bonds that he received would have, oh yeah, these were all surety bonds and they were surrendered on December 31st. So what I can do is, considering the fact that he's already been arrested, we're going to have to readdress his bond. So, Mr. Doties, do you want to address bond at the present time? Oh, doesn't matter. He's got a $5,000, excuse me, he's got a $1,500 surety bond on the, well, those bonds were surrendered. So he's got a $5,000 cash bond on
So
the
that's for the FTA. So I would like to address bond. I believe on the case position 13, that $1,500 bond was never paid and was never surrendered. We would like to address bond on position 12 so that you will have a bond, and then we can just set aside the FTA. So we will still have a bond that'll have to pay.
Okay, so let's address the simple battery charge for position 13, simple battery. He didn't show up to court. What bond should I set?
Your Honor, I believe that bond is set. I wanted to address position 12, case number 21 CR 001.
Hang on, no, Mr. Doty, simple battery bond, $1,500 was surrendered on December 31st, 2022. I'm looking at it, bond surrender by Red Eye Bonding.
You're correct, Your Honor. My apologies. My Odyssey is showing a different charge for that, but I believe you're correct. I'm looking at it now. My
All right,
apologies.
position 13, he, which is also a, which is also a simple battery. He's got, a bond for 1,500, position 13. So
Yes,
you are addressing the bond for, position 12.
yes, Your Honor. That's correct.
Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Goss has been in custody the past 14 days. He's appeared on the FTA, so that should no longer be an issue. He spent his whole life in Georgia, so I don't think he'll be a flight risk. And he has a good address. There was an issue previously with a prior address that he was no longer living at, but I have an updated address, and it's his stepmother's house. Her address is 1381 Kimberly Way, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia, 30331, apartment 22304. I also have contact with Mr. Goss's partner, Helen Smith. So we have contact. Mr. Goss is trying to get out to support his 4 children, ages 4, 2, 2, 1. He's a high school graduate from Carver High School, and he currently has a job in construction at Captitude Material. He can go back to that job. They're holding it for him, but they are wanting him to return to work, and he can continue working in construction. So we're asking this court to set the lowest bond possible to allow Mr. Goss to return and support his children while staying in contact with this court and, making sure he's doing what he needs to do. And what we're going to, stress that he needs to do for these 2 cases.
All right. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Your Honor. For this case, officers reported to 1890 Myrtle Drive, Southwest, apartment 404, in reference to a domestic dispute. They met with the victim, Kenyetta Hassan. She advised officers that she was in a verbal dispute with the father of her child, who is the defendant. The dispute became physical when the defendant pushed the victim into another car nearby, nearly breaking its mirror. He also punched her in the stomach while she was holding her 3-year-old son. The victim was also 3 months pregnant with a child at the time. Because of this, because that it's a battery against a female who's pregnant, and it's the same victim as the 2022 case, we would be asking for a high bond, in this case, $3,000 cash bond, to stay away from the incident location. But I believe they've moved, so we would be asking for him to stay away from the 104 Dogwood Drive, apartment E location, and to have no contact with the victim, Kenyetta Hassan.
All right. Mr. Doty, the 4 children that you mentioned, are those the children that he shares with Ms. Hassan?
Let me clarify. No. Which one do you want?
I don't want the 2-year-old.
Your Honor, he only, of the 4 children, 1 child he does share with the alleged victim in this case. And he understands any conditions, he understands stay away, he understands any third-party custody transfers this court would recommend for that child.
All right. I'm going to set aside the failure to appear on position 14, as he's already been arrested, and set aside the $5,000 cash bond. On position 13, the simple battery domestic violence, he already has a $1,500 bond, which he made. So we're going to leave that in place. For position 12, the simple battery domestic violence, the overall situation is that he's got 2 cases involving the same victim. They both involve violence towards the mother of his child. And he failed to appear because he failed to perform his duty in updating the court with his current address. The bond set for position 12 is going to be a $6,000 surety bond. No further contact with Ms. Kenyetta Hassan, just as they were in the prior orders. He's to have no contact with any child or children that he shares with Ms. Hassan. He must file a separate legitimation action in the appropriate superior court and get a court order establishing visitation and custody as well as child support for the child or children that he shares with Ms. Hassan. No alcohol, no drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. For positions 12 and 13, unless we're going to address a plea, I'm going to have, and since these cases have already been arraigned, so there will be further notice for jail jury.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll submit that bond order paperwork as soon as I get out of here.
No problem. I'm expecting the waiver of arraignment for positions 12 and 13. I'm expecting the proposed bond order that I've just articulated for position 12. And also the order setting aside the failure to appear on and the $5,000 cash bond on position 14.
Yes,
And
Your Honor.
that's the only way that your client can then move on.
Yes, Your Honor. Understood.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next case, please.
Position 15 and 16, Hall.
Okay. Mr. Doty, what is the announcement for Mr. Michael Hall?
This is going to be a negotiated plea for position 15, and I think that will null cross position 16.
All right. These cases are 21 CR 008-027Y, in which Mr. Michael Hall has been accused of driving without a valid license from December 30th, 2021. The second case was a failure to appear, 23 FTA 000012, driving for the failure to appear in the underlying case I just mentioned. Mr. Hall, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Doties. May I place you under oath, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Abdullah, what are the terms of the plea in this case?
At this time, the state is recommending 12 months, 16 days to serve, 8 days credit for time served, and the balance suspended.
12 months, 15 days to serve, 8 days credit, and balance suspended?
I believe I said 16, but excuse me if I said 15. But it's
Was it 16? Yeah, okay. That makes more sense. 16 days to serve, 8 days credit, and balance suspended, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, I believe most of the jail time was credited to the FTA. I just want to make sure that that FTA credit is going to count towards this plea deal for positions 15. It was a little confusingly worded on the plea, since for the FTA position 16, it was just a separate charge. It wasn't the failure to appear. So I want to make sure that.
I don't know. I understand that he's got other matters holding him, but let's see, driving without a valid license, we've got 1 day, and then we've got the 8 days due to other related matters. So yeah, I think the 8 days is pretty satisfactory, since he's only required to serve 16 days. And it's a non-issue, Mr. Doties.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Judge.
Mr. Hall, and do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID, Mr. Doties?
I do for the purposes of this plea, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Hall, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
Oh, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes.
Have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Hall, if you decide to plead guilty to driving without a valid license, you would have to give up your right to go back to court to have a trial, confront your accuser, challenge the state's evidence, have an opportunity to examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to waive these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to one count of driving without a valid license?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 16 days, credit for time served 8 days. your obligations for this case is over and the case is closed as the balance is suspended. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Mr. Hall.
Position 8,
Your Honor, while position 8 is coming forward, may I announce on position 31?
Go ahead.
We had stated waive arraignment, jail jury, not guilty. However, I was mistaken in putting that in there. He is pro se. I have no reason to believe that there's anything the court would have to.
Okay, I'll wait for his announcement then. Thank you.
He's pro se.
Thank you. Position 8 is going to be a negotiated plea for Mr. Hossein Qureshi. And this is case number 20 CR 005-268B. Mr. Qureshi, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Dodies. The charge against you was for criminal trespass at 1923 Howell Mill Road. May I place you under oath for purposes of the plea?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear the information you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, what is the terms, please?
It'd be plea to count 1, criminal trespass for 12 months probation, served 22 days. Credit for time served 18 days with the balance suspended. He's to stay away from 1923 Howell Mill Road Northwest. Nothing further, Your Honor.
And is that the hospital? Honestly, I'm just,
No, it's just passing by from gas station.
okay, the gas station, all right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, that's okay.
As long as we all know what it is, that's perfectly fine. Mr. Dodies, does your client agree to the terms and especially staying away from the location in question?
Yes,
And
Your Honor. I spoke with my client yesterday and he understands the terms. We went over the plea agreement and we do stipulate to the factual basis, venue and ID for this plea.
thank you. Mr. Qureshi, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, never alcohol, never medicine.
Good to know. And have you understood everything so far that's been going on?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And has anyone forced you or induced you to take this plea today?
No.
Okay. And discussing the case with your attorney, you should have gone over what we call the waiver of rights. Have you understood your attorney's explanation of the waiver of rights?
Not yet. I don't hear what it is.
He has not gone over the waiver of rights?
Your Honor, we went over it yesterday. If we could, if Your Honor would go over it again, just so
Yeah.
we are clear. Thank you.
Mr. Qureshi, your attorney should have explained to you that if you plead guilty to this charge, you would have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to be able to have the assistance of counsel during the trial so that you could confront your accuser, examine witnesses, challenge the state's evidence, present any defenses if you choose to do so, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, I think the matter of the fact was somebody was giving me extra net on my fingers. I supposed to walk right. My
Mr.
feet he did.
Yes or no? Sorry about that, Judge. We're ready to proceed. I've spoken with
All
my
right,
client.
Mr. Qureshi, as I've explained to you, that these are rights that you have so that you can challenge a charge in a court of law, which means you will not be entering a plea. But if you plan to enter a plea of guilty, you must knowingly, voluntarily, and willingly give up your rights to challenge this charge. Are you so giving up these rights?
I really get exactly what it is, but I think it's okay. I have to get out of here as soon as possible.
Okay, Your Honor, I've gone over it. He says he has no further questions.
Are you waiving your constitutional right to challenge these charges in a court of law, as I've just explained?
Yes.
Yes.
To accept this.
How do you plead to one count of criminal trespass?
It wasn't
period happened,
It's, yeah, Mr. Grushy, it's a yes or no. or
Yeah, yes.
Guilty
Let's check it
guilty or
out.
not guilty, excuse me.
Mr. Qureshi, look at me on the monitor.
Yeah.
How do you
Nothing.
plead? Listen very carefully. I'm not going to have your attorney interrupt anymore. If you want to challenge this charge against you, you are presumed innocent of this charge. And if you want to challenge it, you have a right to a trial. But if you don't want to challenge it, if you want to plead guilty, then you have to let me know. Do you waive your right to challenge this charge, and are you entering a guilty plea?
I have no idea what it means.
Repeat your sentence.
Yeah,
What is your response?
I think that gas station is the same person which was stealing my
This case
grandma.
is reset 1 week for a plea hearing.
Mr. Grushy, we'll see you next week.
Reset to January 19th.
All right, you're done. Go ahead and have a seat. Position 19, Matthew.
And for North, who do we have?
Position 3.
Okay, I'll be with 4 North shortly. I'm addressing Mr. Jermaine Mackey in courtroom 2. Mr. Mackey's case number is 22 CR 008-557Y. Mr. Mackey's been accused of criminal trespass from December 28, 2022. Mr. Mackey, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. This is going to be a negotiated plea according to the announcement list. So, Mr. Mackey, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge? Repeat.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Abdullah, what are the terms of the offer from the state?
The state is recommending 12 months, 28 days to serve, credit for time served, 14 days, balance probated with the mental health evaluation and treatment, and a stay away from 970 Mansell Road.
All right. Mr. McLean, are those the terms to which your client has agreed?
If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Mhm.
What I have on the offer sheet and explained to him yesterday in our interview was 12 months served, 28 days, credit for 14 days, balance suspended, stay away from 970 Mansell Road.
You should have received the follow-up email about the mental health evaluation and treatment based off the facts. And
I will consult with my client. That's going to be an MHET and what else?
that was it, just the MHET and a stay away from 970 Mansell Road.
And I will terminate probation once the MHET is concluded, and if no treatment's required.
If we could skip to the last of the calendar on that, before the court's over with,
Okay, we will hold on Mr. Mackey. I'll move on to position number 3 for North. This is going to be Mr. Doty's case. And Mr. Taylor, do you have the restitution amount for the case involving State versus Barber?
Your Honor, I reached out to our victim advocate to see if the victim was requesting restitution, and she said that she is not.
Okay, so as restitution is no longer an issue, would this be a negotiated plea, Mr. Doty's?
It will, Your Honor.
All right. This is State versus Little Barber, 22 CR 008-551A. Mr. Barber is accused of theft by taking from October 26, 2022. And Mr. Barber, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Mr. Doty's. I'm so sorry, Mr. Doty's. I just blanked out your first name.
That's Angelo. That's okay.
Angelo, that's right. Angelo Doty's, yes. Okay. And your attorney is Mr. Angelo Doty's. Mr. Abdullah, what are the terms, Mr. Taylor, what are the terms of the offer?
It'll be 12 months to serve 90 days, credit for time served 57 days, with the balance probated. He's to stay away from the incident location at 180 Jackson Street and to have no further contact with Jasmine Benton.
Mr. Doties, are those the terms to which your client has agreed, and do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, Your Honor, we do stipulate.
Mr. Barber, have you consumed any medication or alcohol?
No, ma'am.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So that was a no to no consumption of these items, correct?
Correct.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And is anyone forcing you to take this plea offer today?
No, ma'am.
If you decide to plead guilty to this charge, you would have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to be able to have the assistance of counsel so that you could confront your accuser, examine witnesses, challenge the state's evidence, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to one count of theft by taking?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 90 days, credit for time served 57 days. Your jail time for this charge is concluded, so if you have no additional cases, you should be released within 24 hours. Once you're released, you must report to probation next Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street in downtown Atlanta. While you're on probation, you're also to stay away from 180 Jackson Street in Atlanta, Georgia, and have no contact with Jasmine Benton. I will require you to report for the first 3 months, and then after that, if there are no violations of your probation, then I will place you on a non-reporting status.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Doties, is he able to be released within 24 hours, or are there other matters holding him?
I believe there are other matters holding him. This case.
All right. So the 3 months probation fee waiver will only kick in once he's released. The clock starts counting from there.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Position 22, McNeil.
McNeil?
Oh, that's.
Was that position 20?
22, McNeil.
Your Honor, we had put in the announcement bond hearing, but there are certain documents I think would make a better bond hearing for him, and I'll talk to a colleague about what date he should request in the future for the same. This is simply not guilty, jail, jury. We have a copy of the accusation.
I'm sorry, did you say you waived a reading of the accusation?
We waive a reading of it. We have a copy.
All right. Mr. Traquan McNeil's case number is 22 CR 008453E, who is accused of fair evasion and theft by receiving stolen property from December 21st, 2022, allegedly in Fulton County. Mr. McNeil, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Please be aware that I'm not going to be reading the accusation as per your attorney's request, but please be aware that upon your entry of a not guilty plea, the case will be scheduled for a trial before a judge or a jury. At the time of the trial, the state has the complete burden to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. If the state prevails and also overcomes your legal presumption of innocence, you could be convicted of one or more of these charges and face a penalty of up to a year in prison and or up to $1,000 fine. Given this information, how do you plead?
I plead not guilty, ma'am.
All right. Your case has been arraigned. It's going to be further notice for jail jury. And Mr. McLean, you will have to take up the bond matter with the judge assigned to the trial.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
Position 29, Williams.
How you doing, Jan?
Fine, thank you. This is State versus Dwayne Williams, charged with simple battery from October 20th, 2019. Mr. Williams, your case number is 20 CR 002, excuse me, 00230J. Mr. Williams has a separate case, 20 CR 0000207J. I'm not certain what's these. That's position 28 and 29, correct? He has a second case, position 28 as well. 20 CR 0000207J, accused of simple battery from October 11th, 2019. Mr. Williams, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Mr. McLean, this is going to be a plea, negotiated plea on both cases, yes?
I believe that is correct. Is the state
All right.
confident that those are separate?
Repeat?
Is the state confident that those are separate? He simply wishes to plead guilty. And I understand what the plea bargain offer is. If the state is confident those are separate, he says he's willing to plead to both.
Mr. Abdullah, do you have a response to that statement?
It's two separate charges. And I think he's accepted the plea to both, so I think we're on the same page. Both sentences will run concurrent.
Would you like to proceed then, Mr. McLean?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
That is his wish.
Mr. Williams, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm for purposes of this plea that the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Abdullah, why don't you tell me what the plea offer is for positions 28 and 29, if it's a global offer or if it's separate? You have the floor.
It's two separate offers. They'll run concurrent. For position 28, that's the case number ending in 207J. The state is recommending 12 months, 60 days to serve, credit for time served, 10 days, balance probated, 12-week anger management, and a stay away from 2980 Jonesboro Road, and no further contact with the victim, Odessa Mabry. That's Mabry.
And he'll have 20 more days to serve at the Fulton County Jail for this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. What's the plea offer for the second case, position 29?
For position 29, case number ending in 230J, the state is recommending 12 months, 60 days to serve, credit for time served, 10 days, balance probated with a 12-week anger management, and a stay away from 2980 Jonesboro Road, and no further contact with the victim, Odessa Marbury, and Odessa Mabry, and the 12-week anger management for position 29 will suffice for 28 or vice versa.
All right, looks like it's a concurrent sentence. They're both identical. He'll be required to spend an additional 20 days before he's placed on probation. Is that your understanding, Mr. McLean?
It is.
And does your client accept these terms?
He does.
And you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID for both cases?
We do, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Williams, have you understood what's been going on so far?
I understand very well, Your Honor.
Excellent. And have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
Before I came here, that's what you're asking me?
Yes, just before you showed up on the screen.
Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All right. And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone forced you or induced you to take the plea for both cases today?
No, ma'am.
So you're doing so freely, willingly, and voluntarily?
Yes, ma'am, on my own.
Good. Mr. Williams, I just need to be sure that if you decide to plead guilty to the charges in both these cases, that you would have to give up your constitutional right to ever go back to court and challenge these charges in a court of law. You will not be able to have your attorney help you to challenge the state's evidence, to be able to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand these waiver of rights?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. And how do you plead to the charge of simple battery from October 11th, 2019 in case ending in 207J?
Guilty.
How do you plead to simple battery from the incident of October 20th, 2019 in case ending in 230J?
The same, guilty.
Your sentences will be the same for both cases and they will run concurrent. That means at the same time.
Yes, ma'am.
12 months to serve 60 days, credit for time served 10 days. Based on the time provided by the sheriff's office, you will have 20 more days to serve at the Fulton County Jail. Once you have done that jail time, you'll be released and placed on probation. You will need to complete 12 weeks of anger management classes at your expense. While you're on probation, you are to stay away from 2980 Jonesboro Road and have no contact with Odessa Mabry. That means staying 200 yards away from Miss Mabry. Do not communicate with her in person, through a third party, through a phone, computer, or on social media. I'm going to waive your probation fees for the first 5 months, which is January through the end of May 2023. After that, you will continue to report to probation and start paying probation fees. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I have an individual at jail court iPhone. Who is that, please?
Position 25 and 26.
All right.
Yeah.
That would be Mr. McLean's client. Mr. McLean, do you see your client, Mr. Jarrell Smith?
Yes, Your Honor, 25 is simply the fingerprintable charge FTA and will fall upon the plea of 26.
Okay. Mr. Jarrell Smith, my name is Judge Law. Can you hear me all right?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you have been accused of 2 particular cases, one being a failure to appear charge? You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and his name is Mr. McLean, and he is in courtroom 2. Do you see him on the screen that you're looking at?
Yes, ma'am. I see. How you doing, sir?
Good.
Okay.
Good to see you today.
All right, Mr. Smith, we are going to proceed with a plea hearing, a negotiated plea. May I place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Abdullah, what are the terms for position 26?
At this time, the state is recommending 12 months, 30 days to serve, credit for time served, 8 days, balance probated with 6 weeks anger management, and a stay away from 1195 Woodland Avenue, as well as no further contact with the victim or victims, John Miller, Cody Whitley, and Braden Johnson.
All right. And this would be for the charges of simple battery and battery?
Yes, Your
Yes,
Honor.
yes, this is both charges.
And is it your understanding you will have 7 more days to serve at the jail?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I guess, Mr. McLean, do you concur with your client?
We do. That was Brandon Johnson, right?
John Millard, Cody Whitley, and Brandon Johnson.
Correct.
No contact with all 3.
That is correct.
And will the state be issuing a null pros for position 25 if the plea goes forward?
Yes, the state will fill that paperwork and send it out after court.
All right, thank you. Mr. McLean, do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID then?
We do.
All right. Mr. Smith, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceeding so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
And has he explained to you that if you decide to plead guilty to simple battery and battery, that you would have to give up your rights to go back to court, have a trial, confront your accuser, have the opportunity to examine witnesses, challenge the state's evidence, and have the prosecution be able to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt? Are you prepared to waive these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to 1 count of simple battery and battery?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 30 days, credit for time served 8 days, which means you have 7 more days to serve at the jail before you may be released, after which you will have to report to probation. While you're on probation, you must complete 6 weeks of anger management classes at your expense. You're also to stay away from 1195 Woodland Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. You cannot return to that location. You're also to have no contact of any kind with 3 individuals. Their names are John Millard, Cody Whitley, and Brandon Johnson. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to stay 200 yards away from them and not communicate with them in any way, form, or manner. And your other case, 23 FTA number 13, is going to be closed out. The state's not going to pursue prosecution in that matter. All right. And anything else, Mr. McLean?
Nothing, thank you, Your Honor.
All right. No probation fee waiver?
Well, we would appreciate him not having to pay probation fees. That is true. Thank you for catching that.
I'm going to waive probation fees till the end of May of 2023, once he reports, once that clock starts ticking on that. But he'll need to continue reporting thereafter and start paying probation fees. So it'd be beneficial if he gets employed by June 1st of 2023. Thank you.
Your Honor, on the next part of the calendar, if it's not my case, I wonder if Mr. Abdullah could call 2392 about Mr. Mackey.
Mr. Who?
Regarding Mr. Mackey and the recommendation.
All right. Well, who am I addressing next first?
This is number 31, and he is pro se, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Abdullah, is that your case as well?
It is.
Okay, Mr. Abdullah will call you very shortly, Mr. McLean. This is State versus Golem Zainalian.
Yes, Your Honor.
22 CR 0085660H. Mr. Zainalian is accused of loitering and prowling and a misdemeanor count of stalking. This is from an incident of December 28, 2022. And Mr. Zainalian, you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Anything you say about the facts, your statements can and will be used against you especially by the prosecutors in this case. You have a right to an attorney if you cannot afford one. And if you are not familiar with the rules of criminal procedure and criminal law, it will be highly recommended that you take advantage of the services of the Public Defender's Office so that you do not incriminate yourself or jeopardize your legal defenses. However, you do have a right to voluntarily and willingly waive your right to counsel if you understand that any legal decision you make will be based purely upon your knowledge and your information of the law. No one on this Zoom can give you legal advice, with the exception of the public defense attorneys, if you choose to have them represent you. So, given this information, are you prepared to represent yourself, or would you like the services of the Public Defense Counsel?
Good morning, Your Honor. I represent myself.
All right. Are you an attorney?
No.
Do you have any knowledge or study of the law?
Law libraries.
I beg your pardon?
Law libraries.
Okay.
Law libraries.
So you do not want the services of a legal defense attorney?
No, ma'am, I have no good faith in them.
All right. How would you like to proceed in your case?
I'm not guilty.
All right.
Everything.
Keep your mask up for me.
Oh, sorry.
So you want to enter a plea of not guilty and have a trial?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
All right. So this is the stage of the case what we call arraignment,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
means that I will formally inform you of what the charges are
Yes, ma'am.
and the consequences of going to trial.
Yes, ma'am.
And upon your entry of a not guilty plea, the case will then be reset to be placed on a trial calendar. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want me to read the accusation, the charges that have been brought against you, or would you like to waive a reading of the charges?
They're all unfunded, but I would appreciate it.
You want me to read them?
Please.
Okay. You've already been advised of your right to remain silent and your right to counsel, to which you waived your right to counsel. So you're proceeding self-represented.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
is case 22 CR 0085660H, State versus Golem Zainalian. The case was accused on December 29th, 2022. Mr. Zenelian was accused of loitering and prowling and of misdemeanor stalking. In the accusation for, I'm sorry, I'm just have to wait for it to open up. In the accusation for loitering and prowling, the prosecutor, Keith Gamage, does hereby charge and accuse the defendant of this misdemeanor offense for said accused in Fulton County, Georgia, on December 28th, 2022, did appear in a place at a time or in a manner not usual for law-abiding individuals under circumstances that warrant a justifiable or reasonable alarm or immediate concern for the safety of persons or property in the vicinity, in violation of Georgia law 16-11-36. With respect to the second accusation, the Solicitor General, Mr. Keith Gamage, does hereby charge and accuse Mr. Zenelian with the offense of misdemeanor stalking for that said accused in Fulton County, Georgia, on or about December 28, 2022, did follow and place under surveillance Shayla Dang, D-A-N-G, for the purpose of harassing or intimidating such person in violation of Georgia law 16-5-90. To these accusations, the accused is legally presumed innocent of the charges, and upon his entry of a not guilty plea, the case will be scheduled for trial. At the time of the trial, the prosecutor has the complete burden to prove the charges against the accused and to carry that burden of beyond a reasonable doubt. If the state prevails, the accused could be found guilty of one or more of these charges. If found guilty, he could face a penalty of up to a year in prison and or up to $1,000 fine for each convicted offense. If he's found guilty of both offenses, the sentences could run concurrently, that is together, or consecutively, that is separately. Given this information, Mr. Zenelian, how do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, does the defendant know that the state has made a plea recommendation? I'm not sure it's been communicated with him.
Well, right now, his case has been arraigned. All right. Mr. Zenelian, you are on notice that your case has now been formally arraigned. You have 10 days to file all the necessary motions in order to preserve your defenses and your rights, as well as to seek discovery. In the meantime,
I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask 10 business day or 10 calendar day.
calendar days.
Okay, so it will be the 22nd, my deadline.
It would be the 23rd.
23rd. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your time.
Because the 16th is a public holiday.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Dr. King's birthday. Yes, ma'am.
Now, I am going to have the prosecutor let you know what is the plea recommendation. In other words, they're going to make a recommendation if you decide to plead guilty to the charges.
May
Mr.
I?
Abdullah?
May I? May I make a statement?
Yeah, go ahead.
I do appreciate all the time that the court and the prosecutor has invested on this, but I can assure you that these accusations are as news to Dr. Dang herself as they are to me. These started on January 12th, based on a false police report of the Clear Choice office manager, Lori Romano. And I have repeatedly requested FOIA, and I was repeatedly given sweet stories and denied my rights unless I filed a civil charges, which, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but that, to me, that
Mr. Zenelian, if you believe that you have bona fide defenses, I highly recommend that you do not articulate them at this time, because I certainly don't want you to incriminate yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Number two, are you interested in listening to the prosecutor's plea recommendation?
Sure. I appreciate
Mr.
your.
Abdullah?
At this time, the state is recommending for count one. Count one is the stalking, 12 months to serve 120 days, credit for time served 15 days, balance probated with a mental health evaluation and treatment if necessary, or as recommended, and to stay away from 3650 Brookside Parkway, and no further contact with Shayla Dang. As to count 2, the loitering, 12 months probation to run consecutive, with count 1.
All right. So, Mrs. Zanelian, that is the plea recommendation. If you are interested in that, you can let us know later in the calendar if you want to address that. Otherwise, your case is going to be reset to what we call a jail jury calendar. Just for your information, you have a $1,000 good bond on the loitering and prowling charge, and you have a $3,000 good bond on the stalking charge, with a condition that you're not to contact Miss or Dr. Dang at all.
Okay.
So if you attempt to communicate with Dr. Dang from the jail phone, please be aware that these communications are monitored, and
Yes,
you run the risk of getting your bond revoked if
Yes,
you
ma'am.
attempt to communicate with her or her office.
Your Honor, I have been trying to contact bail companies, but the phones, the bail companies do not accept collect calls. I tried to get one of the inmates to get one of their outside families. They asked me to release my credit card, so they can pay the 10%. But then Officer Cochran came back and gave me a form to release all my property. And the following day, Officer Cochran said there was no record of any activity in the system. So with all due respect, I do appreciate your time. I do appreciate your advice, but even if it were $1, I couldn't pay it anyway.
Thank you, sir. That concludes this case.
Okay, thank you.
You ready for position 19 yet?
Mr. Abdullah, if you'd like to call the jail, please.
What are we supposed to do?
Okay, I put in the chat. I'm trying to figure out if you guys can send me the number in the chat to call down.
It's a 404-612-2392. All right.
Can you repeat
Deputy
that?
Friends, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Abdullah.
Can you repeat that number one more time?
404-612-2392.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Doties, do you have another client in courtroom 2?
Not in courtroom 2.
All right, we are moving on to ACDC South Annex. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
All right, good morning. My name is Judge Lal, and I'll be addressing your cases. Please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, we have Public Defense Counsel who is available in courtroom 2 to represent you. Deputy, please hold for 1 second, just 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I apologize for the interruption. ACDC, who do we have, please?
Position 1 and 2, Ms. Allen.
All right, we have Miss Cherie Allen, case number 21 CR 003569J. And the second case is a failure to appear, 23 FTA 000011, for failure to appear in court on September 28, 2022. Ms. Allen, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Angelo Dodis. Do you see Mr. Dodis in courtroom 2?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Dodis, this is going to be a negotiated plea. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Because the balance is probated, we would also ask the court to waive Ms. Allen's probation fees and switch her over to non-reporting upon completion of all conditions if the state agrees to that.
All right. Mr. Taylor, well, let me do this first. Miss Allen, could you please raise your right hand for purposes of the plea? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I promise.
Thank you. And Mr. Taylor, could you tell me the terms of the plea offer, including your thoughts on non-reporting?
Yes, Your Honor. The plea recommendation is to plead to count 1, battery, 12 months to serve 4 days, credit for time served 2 days, the balance probated. She's to have no further contact with the victim, Matthew Johnson, to take a 4-week anger management class. The state does not have any objection to it being non-reporting upon completion of the anger management classes.
All right. Mr. Dodis, are these the terms to which your client agreed? And do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, Your Honor. These are the terms that we agreed to, and I do stipulate to the 3 elements for the purpose of this plea.
And Mr. Taylor, we're going to null pros position 2 if the plea goes forward?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Miss Allen, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am. Is this, I'm sorry, may I ask a question, Your Honor?
Sure, go ahead.
Does this run my, is this gonna be with both of my
This is going to close, this is going to address both the cases. This is going to close out your misdemeanor battery case and the failure to appear case. Are there, Mr. Dodis, are there any other cases out there?
I spoke with Miss Allen yesterday. There are a couple of cases, but this is what's holding her. So
Okay.
but she understands that, and we went over that. But
Okay,
yes.
yes, ma'am, I understand.
All right,
Okay.
and so are you satisfied with your attorney so far?
Yes, ma'am.
And is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take a plea today in this one case involving battery against Matthew Johnson?
No, ma'am.
And Miss Allen, if you decide to plead guilty to this case, you would have to give up your constitutional right to a trial. You will not be able to go back to court to challenge this offense, not be able to confront your accuser, have an attorney help you to examine witnesses, challenge the state's evidence, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes,
How do you plead to 1 count of battery?
guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 4 days, credit for time served 2 days. We're going to close out the second case for the failure to appear, as the state's not going to pursue prosecution in that matter.
I still have to do 2 days, because he told me.
Listen very
yesterday.
carefully. Listen very carefully. You need to serve 4 days. You're getting credit for 2 days. The jail considers the 2 days as being 4 days.
Okay,
So your jail time is done for this case.
okay, thank you.
If you have no other cases holding you at the jail, you'll be released within 24 hours.
Okay, thank you.
And you will report to the probation office next Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street.
Okay,
And when you are placed on probation, you must complete 4 weeks of anger management classes at your expense.
okay,
And at all times, you are to have no contact with Matthew Johnson.
all right,
You cannot talk to him, email him, call him, discuss him on social media, or try to reach him through a third party. Do you understand?
yes, ma'am.
I will waive your probation fees up to and including May of 2023. So make sure you get your anger management classes done by the end of May.
Okay.
If you're not done, you will start paying probation fees from June 1st onwards.
Okay.
If you complete the anger management classes and there are no further violations, your probation will be non-reporting.
Okay.
But you must report from now until the end of May.
Okay. And when do I report again?
Next
What day?
Thursday,
Next Thursday. At what time?
before 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. ma'am.
Position 2 is
That's any
non-pros.
other-
All right, so thank, take care. Good luck.
Judge, just Katrina, repeat that sentence again. She's to serve how many days?
It says serve 4 days, credit for time served 2 days. Balance
Oh, it
remainder.
does? Oh. Okay, serve, on that thing, it had 15 days. We're talking about position number 1, right?
Right. Yeah, I also noted that, but the state has articulated different terms, so I'm going with that.
That's correct. We had a negotiation via chat.
So it's to serve 2 days, credit for time served 4 days.
To serve 4 days, credit for time
Oh.
served 2 days.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Karina, you're killing me. You're making me do math. Okay,
Position
All
number
right.
7.
thank you. This is State versus Hycaria M. Fielder, case number 20 CR 004427E. Ms. Fielder, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Doties. You've been accused of simple battery, domestic violence, and cruelty in the 3rd degree from an incident of August 22nd, 2020. Mr. Fielder, I understand that you'll be filing a waiver of arraignment and the case is going to be further noticed for jail jury. Would that be correct, Mr. Doties? I'm sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. That's okay. Yes, Your Honor, and I'll file that paperwork as soon as we're concluded here.
All right. If there are no other matters, Ms. Fielder, your case, your attorney is filing a not guilty plea on your behalf, and your case will be scheduled for trial. Your attorney will advise you as to the schedule as to when the case will be set for trial. All right, thank you. You're free to go. Next case, please.
9 to 11.
Position 11,
9 through 11.
9 through 11, okay. Mr. Doties, what's the announcement for Kavia Gonzalez?
Yes, Your Honor. Positions 9 through 11 are going to be a negotiated plea. We are requesting for position 10 for Ms. Gonzalez to use her NOLO. But she is prepared to go forward with a negotiated plea on all charges.
No, I'm not.
All right,
We discussed guilty.
Okay, if Ms. Gonzalez, we discussed doing the NOLO for one of them. We're still entering the negotiated plea, but Ms. Gonzalez, if you just want to enter guilty, then that's your choice.
Yes, that's what I want to do.
all
Okay.
right. All right, Ms. Gonzalez, I'll be addressing your case in about 30 seconds. I just want to get an update on a couple of cases. Mr. Tom Mondelli, are you present? Mr. Tom Mondelli, I do see. I don't see.
Good morning.
All right, I will be addressing the case that you have for Zachary Alexis very shortly in a breakout room, okay?
Understood, Judge.
All right. Is Tyree Bridges present? Tyree Bridges? Okay. Mr. Bridges has filed a motion to set aside a bench warrant, but all right, we'll address that. Okay. Kavia Gonzalez has got 3 cases before the court this morning. The first one is position 9, 22 CR 008352J, in which she is accused of simple battery, and disorderly conduct. The 3 misdemeanor charges allegedly occurring on December 16, 2022. The position number 10, State versus Gonzalez, case number 17 CR 017194J. Ms. Gonzalez is accused of battery from April 16th, 2016. And the third case is State versus Gonzalez, accused of simple battery domestic violence from September 2nd, 2021. And with regards to all three cases, Ms. Gonzalez, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Angelo Dotis. Do you see Mr. Dotis in the on the screen?
Yes, I see him.
All right. And Ms. Dotis, this is going to be a negotiated plea hearing. May I place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, is this going to be a global offer or separate office running concurrent or consecutive?
It will be set. So all the offers are the same. They will be running concurrent. However, the no further contact and stay away orders will be different for each case.
All right. So let's start with position 9.
All right. It'll be plead account 1, 2, and 3 for 12 months, serve 42 days, credit for time served 28 days, with the balance probated. Choose to take a family violence intervention program. Have no further contact with the victims Joseph Luke and Eugene Harris. And she's to stay away except for medical emergencies at 550 Peachtree Street Northwest, which is Emory Hospital.
Okay. Emory Hospital, okay. And the calendar stated 12 weeks of anger management, so that's been amended to a FVIP?
Yes, Your Honor, we will be offering FVIP as a global offer for all three cases.
All right. And for position 10, who does the no further contact and stay away apply?
It will be no further contact with the victim, Sarah Luby. That's Looby. She's to stay away from 80 Jesse Hill Jr. Drive Southeast. Which
Grady
is
Hospital?
Grady, yes,
Unless seeking treatment.
correct.
And position 11, to whom does the no further contact apply?
It'll be with Paula Smith. And the stay away will be 200 Lydia Drive Southeast. That's LYDIA.
Is that in Atlanta?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Dotis, those are the offers with regards to all three cases to run concurrent, with the exception of the different victims and location, stay away locations. Does your client agree to these terms?
Yes, Your Honor, we went over everything. I would ask for Ms. Gonzalez's probation fees to be waived and to see about switching her over to non-reporting status upon completion of FVIP. But she understands everything and we're prepared to go forward with the negotiated plea.
All right. I'm willing to waive all her probation fees, but she must report to probation every month. There will be no non-reporting. She has to report to probation every month, and she must make sure that she complies with the term and not violate the probation conditions and or get arrested for anything new.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Gonzalez, you have, and I'm sorry, do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID for all three cases?
I do for the purpose of the plea, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Gonzalez, may I ask you some questions?
Yes, ma'am.
You need to answer very clearly so that I can make sure that you're entering a guilty plea to these cases and that you're doing so freely, willingly, and knowingly. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No. No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand that you are pleading guilty to 3 separate cases.
Yes, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with your attorney's representation?
Yes, ma'am.
Is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take a plea offer today?
No, ma'am.
And your attorney has gone over the waiver of rights with you, just to remind you that if you plead guilty to these 3 cases, you will have to give up your right to go back to court and have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to give up your rights to have an attorney represent you so that you can confront your accuser, examine witnesses, challenge the state's evidence, present any defenses you may have, and have the prosecution try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
On position 10, how do you plead to 1 count of simple battery, and disorderly conduct?
Guilty.
And that was position 9. On position 10, how do you plead to 1 count of battery?
Guilty.
And on position 11, how do you plead to 1 count of simple battery domestic violence?
Guilty.
Your sentences will run concurrent. That means the same for all 3 cases, with the exception of the different victims and the different locations from which you would have to stay away. Your sentence is 12 months to serve 42 days, credit for time served 28 days, which means that your jail time is concluded for all 3 cases. And once you're released, you must report to the probation office located at 132 Mitchell Street in downtown Atlanta. Does she have any other cases holding her at the jail? Mr. Doties?
I believe that this resolves everything with the jail.
All right. So if there are no other cases holding you, you should be released within 24 hours. You must report to probation next Thursday, January 19th, before 3 p.m. at the address I've indicated. While you're on probation, you will complete 12 weeks of anger management classes, and these classes must be completed within the first 6 months of your probation. I'm going to waive all your probation fees, and you will report to probation every month with no exception. If you fail to report, if you violate any of the conditions of your probation, or if you get arrested again for anything else, you could risk the revocation of your probation and end up spending the rest of the 12 months in jail. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You are to have no contact with the following individuals: Joseph Loop and Eugene Harris from position 9. No contact with and stay away from the Emory Hospital at 550 Peachtree Street in Northwest Atlanta, unless you have a medical appointment or seeking emergency treatment. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
In position 10, you're to have no contact with Sarah Luby, Looby, and stay away from the Grady Hospital at 80 Jesse Hill Drive, unless you have an appointment or seeking emergency treatment. On position 11, you're to have no contact with Paula Smith and to stay away from 200 Lydia Drive in Southeast Atlanta, Georgia. That means staying 200 yards away and not communicating with the individuals either in person, through any electronic device or social media, or even through a third person. Do you have any questions about your sentences?
No, ma'am.
All right, that concludes these cases. Thank you.
Just clarify the victims' names on the number 9. I thought there was 3 victims. Is it just 2? Or
I heard 2, Joseph Loop and Eugene Harris, and stay away from Grady.
That's correct.
Emory.
All right.
I thought there was Emory for number 9.
Oh, excuse me. Stay away from Emory from position 9. Grady
That's
on
funny.
position 10.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Position 18.
Okay.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Judge Law. We have one more last case here. This is McLean's case, and then we'll be completed here in courtroom 2.
Okay. Position 18, I'll be right with you. Let me see what's going on who do you have in courtroom 2?
This is position 19, Mr. Mackey, and this is McLean's case.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is State versus Jermaine Mackey, 22 CR 0085557Y. Mr. Mackey has been advised of his right to remain silent, and his attorney is Mr. McLean. Mr. Mackey and Mr. McLean, I understand this is going to be a negotiated plea. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. Mackey, you've already been advised of your right to remain silent. May I place you under oath for just the purposes of the plea? The other right hand. Your other right hand, yeah. Do you saw, nope, wrong, right,
Oh, this one?
correct. You have the, do you solemnly swear and affirm that testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Abdullah,
Yes, the state is recommending 12 months to serve, 28 days, credit for time served, 14 days, balance probated with mental health evaluation and treatment as recommended, and a stay away from 970 Mansell Road.
Mr. McLean, does your client agree to these terms, and do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
He does, and we do.
Mr. Mackey, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, ma'am.
And you understand that you would need to undertake an evaluation and submit yourself to any treatment that's required?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And is anyone forcing you to take this plea today?
No, ma'am.
If you decide to plead guilty today, you would give up your right to a trial, to go back to court, confront your accuser, examine witnesses, have the opportunity to challenge the state's evidence, and also give up your right to have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Oh, ma'am. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
How do you plead to one count of criminal trespass?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days. If you have no other cases holding you, you'll be released within 24 hours, and you must report to the probation office next Thursday, January 19th, before 3 p.m. The address is 132 Mitchell Street in downtown Atlanta. While you're on probation, you will complete the MHET, the evaluation, and I said submit yourself to any treatment at your expense. You're also to stay away from 970 Mansell Road. I gather that's in Alpharetta, Georgia, or I think it's Alpharetta or Johns Creek.
It's in the north half of the county. Your Honor, could he have a break on his probation fees as soon as he gets his evaluation done?
Mr. Abdullah, how many cycles does Mr. Mackey have?
1 second.
Or if I have pretrial present?
25, I believe, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yeah, and about more than 10 of those cycles came from the last year.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. McLean, I'm going to waive all his probation fees, but he must report to probation every month. And if he gets arrested again for anything else, or if he violates the conditions of his probation, he will be spending the rest of the year in jail. Thank you.
Who is Ms. Mackey?
All right, position number 8, yes, Miss Ashley Nicole Lawless at the ACDC South Annex. This is case number 21 COB 000028, in which Miss Lawless has been accused of battery from October 9th, 2020. Miss Lawless, you have a right to remain silent as so advised, and your attorney is Mr. Michael McClay. No, excuse me. Is that Mr. Doties? Okay. Your
Yeah.
attorney is Mr. Doties. He's in courtroom 2 at the present time. Do you see him?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Doties, I believe that you are filing a waiver of arraignment and the case will be reset for jail jury. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. After speaking with Ms. Lawless, that's what we are asking for, and we'd like to be heard on bond today.
All right. This is a failure to appear warrant that was issued after Ms. Lawless failed to appear in court pursuant to the citation that was issued against her. And she's got a $2,000 surety bond at the present time. You may proceed, Mr. Doties.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Lawless's bond is currently a $2,000 surety bond, as the court just mentioned. Ms. Lawless is currently unable to afford that bond and has spent the past, I believe, 9 days in jail, or 9 days in jail, unable to pay. She's not a flight risk. She has lived in Georgia for the past 20 years. She has a good address that this court will be able to reach her at 113 16th Street, apartment 3, Atlanta, Georgia. That is a Mr. Raymond Mitchell's home, who I spoke with yesterday. He's aware of Ms. Lawless's situation. He did verify that she would be able to live there, and so all her mailings can go there. Ms. Lawless received her GED and was working at CVS until her arrest, and she thinks that she can go back as well as doing DoorDash. The reason that Ms. Lawless is also a mother of 7 children. A few of them are grown, but one of them is 17 months old and is currently being cared for by Ms. Lawless, a 70-year-old mother who's struggling with that. Ms. Lawless wasn't aware that she missed court until she was in another county in custody for something else. Ms. Lawless, after speaking with her, she told me that she tried to contact the court and figure out if she had a court date, because she thought it was strange that she wasn't getting contacted. And she was told repeatedly that nothing was on the docket. And with her newborn child, that got in the way and she stopped checking, which is my understanding where the confusion came from for her missing that court date. So we are asking for a lower bond that will allow Ms. Lawless to get on with her life and care for her children, while also doing whatever the court thinks is necessary to make sure that she's staying in communication.
All right. On the arrest citation, we have a 238 Moreland Way. And then with her current address, when she was booked in, I have a Middleton Road address. Is that the correct address?
So, Your Honor, my understanding is the correct address should now be 113 16th Street.
So now she has a third address, 113 16th Street, Atlanta, Georgia, apartment 3. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I know that there's a lot of transitioning with the newborn at the time, according to Ms. Lawless, but I did speak with Raymond Mitchell, who is the occupant of this address, and he verified that address with me, and that Ms. Lawless will be there and will be able to receive any mailings or anything from the court moving forward.
Right. And does she understand that the failure to appear was based on the fact that she never updated her address?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
Okay,
Sorry, go ahead.
I know it's tough with Zoom, but I spoke with Ms. Lawless upon the importance of making sure that the court has every means of communication or change of address. Ms. Lawless knows that it's of, the utmost of importance if her situation changes, if her living situation changes, or any other contact method changes, that she needs to update that as soon as possible.
Okay, Mr. Abdullah?
If I could just lay the facts, on October 9th, 2020, police responded to a domestic dispute call. Upon arrival, they ascertained that the defendant was asked by her sister, who was the victim in this case, Tiffany Clark, to leave her apartment. The defendant refused to leave and grabbed Ms. Clark by the hair and punched her in the face. Ms. Clark did have a visible scratch on her left cheek. As the court has pointed out, the defendant has had 3 previous addresses, none of which she's updated with the clerk. Defense counsel says that she called and tried to figure out when her court date was. That's fine, except she didn't update her address with the clerk. And so therefore, there were 2 notices sent out to 238 Moreland Way, which was her address on file. Both were returned, and she did FTA on 4/27. She also has an FTA from 2016, as well as a simple battery arrest after this or before this case out of Gwinnett, and a battery arrest in 2014. For those reasons, the state would ask that the bond remain the same, a $2,000 good bond, stay away from the incident location, 2101 Southwood Boulevard, and no further contact with the victim, Tiffany Clark. That's all for the state, Your Honor.
All right. Bond is going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. Miss,
Yeah. Your Honor, if we could, if you're inclined to set a signature bond, if we could just recommend a day anger management course through
oh, yes,
pretrial.
it will be done through pretrial. It's a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services, which means that Ms. Lawless, you can sign up for your bond, but you must report to the pretrial officers once a month. You are to have no further contact with Tiffany Clark, and to stay away wherever Ms. Clark happens to be, whether it's a home, her place of employment, on the street. You need to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. No alcohol, no illegal drugs, no weapons, and no firearms. And you're required to update the court with any change in your contact information, address, phone number, email, so forth. You are supposed to come down to the courthouse and fill out any changes in writing. Do you understand? Otherwise, you'll be back in jail under the same circumstances. Your next court date will be sent to you at your current address, at the care of Raymond Mitchell, 113 16th Street, Apartment 3, Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know what the zip code is, so once you're released, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Doties.
Your Honor, I do want to, we've read that out a couple of times, and that's the address Ms. Lawless gave me, but if she could confirm that, is that the correct address while she's here?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll get the zip code from Mr. Mitchell. I should have Googled it. My apologies.
All right. Ms. Lawless, if you do not report to pretrial, if you don't comply with the conditions of pretrial, or if you get arrested again, that $3,000 signature bond will convert back to a surety bond. Understood?
Yes.
Which means you will need to pay bond the next time. All right, that concludes this case. Thank you. This case is further notice for trial.
Thank you, Judge.
And please remember to file the waiver of arraignment. Okay, do I have any other jail cases? No? Okay. This is the last call. This is the last call for Tyree Bridges. Tyree Bridges. Tyree Bridges case was scheduled for 11 o'clock on a motion to set aside the bench warrant. Mr. Bridges has, Mr. McLean, I understand you're representing him. Any insight?
Okay. You didn't show up today? We haven't talked to him, Your Honor, so we'll try to get.
With a motion to set aside the bench warrants denied, I'll do the order on that. The bench warrant is alive and well, and I guess we will see him once it's executed. Thank you.
Your Honor, if we have an update, we'll try to get hold of the prosecutor as well.
Certainly. Yes, please do. Thank you.
John Williams was in medical yesterday. We did not have an opportunity to have him brought to us, apparently.
Ooh. Well, give me a moment. Give me a moment. I am needing to talk to Mr. Mondelli in a breakout, and then I'll come out back and wrap up the calendar, okay?
Your Honor, we are also still waiting for Christopher Fannin. I thought he popped up on the 3 North jail phone.
Check with the deputy in there and see if you can find which location he's at. Just mute your screen right now. All right. Ms. Lewis, can we place Mr. Walker and Mr. Mondelli and me in a breakout, please? All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the attorneys, I'm going to just go over the calendars that we've addressed this morning. For the SAP add-on calendar, that was a negotiated plea with private counsel. For the domestic violence bench warrant calendar with Tyree Bridges, last call. All right, I'm going to issue an order denying the motion to set aside the bench warrant. The competency calendar has already been addressed. Now, the main SAP state all-purpose calendar are as follows. Oh, quorum 2, Mr. Doties or Mr. McLean? Mr. Doties, are you with us?
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry, we're
There we
muted.
go. We were
No,
muted.
just want to be sure you were there. Okay. Position 1 was a plea. Position 2 was null pros. Position 3 was a plea. Position 4, Blackman was released. Position 5, Cameron Evans. What's the announcement?
Yes, Your Honor. I tried to see Mr. Evans yesterday and was told he was in medical, and as far as I know, he wasn't brought out today, so we're just gonna.
He was released. He made bond.
He
Oh, he
made
made bond? Okay, never mind then. Thank you.
All right, position 5 is further notice. Position 6, Christopher Fannin is a negotiated plea, but we didn't address him.
Yes, Your Honor. There was some confusion at the jail and they didn't bring him down, so that's just gonna be reset to next week. This isn't holding him.
Okay, so I'm going to reset it to January 19th.
Thank you, Judge.
Position 7, Fielder, you're filing a waiver of arraignment, further notice for jail jury. Position 8 was reset January 19th for a plea. Position 9, Gonzalez was a plea. 10 was a plea. 11 was a plea, that same person. Position 12, a waiver of arraignment is going to be filed, further notice for jail jury for position 12 and 13. Position 14 is the bench warrant is set aside. And Mr. Doties, you're going to submit the order also including the new bond and the set aside of the bench warrant, yes?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank
Judge,
you.
was the new bond on position 12 or position 14?
It was position 13 is a $1,500 good bond and position 12 is a $6,000 good bond.
That's what I thought.
Okay. Sorry, position 15 was a plea, 16 was null pros, 17 arraignment has been waived, further notice for jail jury. Bond hearing was already held and so he was not brought to the jail. Position 18, Lawless was a waiver of arraignment, bond set at $3,000 signature bond through pretrial, further notice for trial. 19 was a plea. 20, Rodarius Marshall was released, same for 21 released. Position 22, a waiver of arraignment will be filed, further notice for jail jury. You requested a bond hearing, but
It's not right. He had, once I talked to him, he mentioned the document and I said, you shouldn't go forward if we don't have the document, so.
Sounds good.
Do
Okay.
that later.
Position 23 is an MH referral. Are we going to further notice that to the
He
competency
wasn't not
calendar?
supposed to be on this counter, Judge. It was actually set. There was an MHT file, so it's gonna reset to in February.
What day in February?
February 2nd.
Okay.
23, February 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Position 24 has been loaned out, I'm assuming, to Grady.
Yes, Your Honor, it's been loaned out several times. One of these days we'll get to see him.
And
Okay.
that's a conflict attorney case too. That's Mrs. McLeod.
All right, this one's going to be reset to the first SAP available in February.
So
Okay.
24 is McLeod.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
going to be February 2nd.
Very good. I'll stop trying to see him.
Crossing fingers and toes.
Well, I don't know if she's aware of it. Well, I told her. She should.
Okay. 25 is null pros. 26 was a plea. 27, Otis Swain has been released. 28, and 29 were pleas, same individual. 30, John Williams.
We're seeing if he's gonna be brought down here, or if I'm gonna go up on the floor. He was in an observation unit, physically, they did not, they said they weren't able to bring him to me yesterday, so we're gonna tell him of his offer of time served today. I calculated the time served today or tomorrow.
Mr. McLean, I'm adjourning after this calendar call.
Right,
All right, so I'm going to reset it to January 19th.
I understand, it's a shame, but,
I can reset it to January 17th.
17th would be even better.
All right, January 17th for a plea.
That's Tuesday, okay.
Yeah.
It'll be an add-on calendar.
Position 31, Mr. Zanalian is pro se. His case has been arraigned. He's got a $4,000 surety bond and is further notice for trial, jail jury. All right, any questions? All right, folks, that concludes the SFP calendar. We will resume at 2 p.m. for the C calendar. Yes.
Give us an extra 40 minutes. I think we're gonna take a lunch break for a change.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm just expecting all y'all paperwork in a timely manner. Mr. McLean, can you?
I'm gonna take him over to the Wellen, which is a restaurant next door. He needs some lunch, so do I.
Okay, well, while you do that, when you scan your paperwork, can you please make sure it's scanned not, correctly, because it's been crooked, sideways, cut off. Is there any way you can make sure it's scanned properly? I appreciate that.
We'll feed it into that feeder.
Bye,
probably.
Judge.
That's all I can do. That's all I can do.
Yeah, we'll feed it through maybe correctly.
Judge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be waiting for y'all paperwork now.
I'm on the way.
All right.
Let's go to the Wellen and grab a sandwich or something. This is a